Hello class, this is the second part of the video tutorial for assignment 1. This will deal with parts 3 and 4, part 3 being the confidence factor and part 4 being the cost sensitivity. Okay, so on the confidence factor, we're going to go back to our WECA model that we used, putting J48 in there. And what I've done is, this was the very first run that we had for part 1, and that's sitting in there by default. Remember, it's a run that by default is a prune tree. No other values have been altered in any way. But what we need to do is go take a look and alter the confidence factor. So to do that, again, after you've done your run, or if you're starting from scratch, you'll need to go up there and change that. So if I did a J48 run, I could go ahead and let's see. Okay, so this again was your regular run you did for the very first in part 1. And if we look on the instructions here for part 3, confidence factor, we're going to set it to 0.01. Rebuild the model in the same way as you did in part 1. Okay, and so in part 1, remember we just did a J48 tree and so forth, but this time we're gonna alter something, and that is this confidence factor. So let's go back to WECA. Okay, there it is. There's all the information. This is the same thing you came up with in part 1. Again, this is the fit data set, and you'll be doing the same thing for the test data set. But we're going to go ahead and make our alter now on the confidence factor. And to do that, just click up here in the box, and you'll see here confidence factor. Well, by default, it's 0.25. What we want to do is, as it says in our instructions right here, we want to put 0.01. So let's go ahead and put 0.01. Okay, and we'll click OK here. And that's been done, and you can see right up there 0.01 has been changed, and we just go ahead and do the same thing. And so when you do that, again, copy and paste, you'll see the number of leaves have changed. So what you want to do is you want to take this information, again, in labeling your assignment in Word, this would be, part 3, and then you would again insert little 2x2 tables, and over on this side you're going to put what you had from part 1, the information there, so you can just go to another cell and copy and paste it in here as far as the information that you have for fit data. And over here you're going to put your new information that you came up with when you modified the confidence factor. Right? So if I went back to Word, so fit data from part 1 here, fit data that you just did for part 3 and adjusting the confidence factor here. Then same thing for test data, same thing with your new results for test data. Test data for part 1, new results by adjusting the confidence factor. Okay? And then just tell me below, type in here, what changed? What did you notice at number of leaves, false negative rate, false positive rate, the confusion matrix. What changes occurred? Okay? So that would deal with part 3 of this assignment. That's all you have to do. Okay, so finally the last step here is part 4, cost sensitivity. Till now we did not make any distinction between a type 1 and 2 error. However, in software quality classification, a type 2 error is more serious than a type 1. Again, type 2, I would miss that malicious activity going on in my network getting by me, so that could be really serious if somebody's getting sensitive data in my organization. Type 1 error is just it's a false alarm. Okay, it was a false alarm, I had to deal with it, but I didn't have to worry about anybody getting any information from my company or do anything malicious to my network. Objective is to obtain a balanced misclassifications for type to as low as possible. Now, you've got a cost-sensitive classifier in here. Up here in part 3, we played with a variable called the confidence factor. Okay? Now down here, what we're going to do is we're going to take another variable called the cost-sensitive classifier with the data set. All right? And we're going to play with that a little bit. Using tenfold validation on the fit data, observe trends in classification rate. What happens when the cost of type 2 error decreases and increases? Okay, evaluate each model on the test data set. All models on the test data set. So, got a fit data, test data we'll be working with here again. But this time a little bit different. I just want to let you know there's also a steps in your Angel here, cost sensitive steps. That document is this one that's right here. And so it just says where you go to do this when you're choosing your classifier, which one you're choosing. Again, I'm going to do this in this video tutorial also, what to choose for doing it, the confusion matrix you come up with, and so forth. Okay, so let's go back to Weka. So now what we'll have to do is we're going to be going in here and choosing a totally different classifier. We'll be using J48, but in a different way. So we go to choose. I'll go ahead and minimize that in trees. And cost-sensitive classifier is under the meta. So you go to meta, cost-sensitive classifier. Okay, you choose that. Now the next step would be in choosing that, click in the white box here, and you're going to choose and you're going to tell it you want J48. So this is where we come up with the J48. Alright, so you got J48, and you've got this other little box here called the cost matrix. Well, this is where you're going to go in and make some changes. Now, by default, it's just got one box, but what you need to do is change this to a 2, click resize, and there you go. Now, with this cost-sensitive classifier, this is the box right here that we're taking a look at because we're talking about minimizing type 2 errors. So what I'd like you to do is first do a straight run as 1 for it. So you would come back here, everything's okay, and do your run. And so what I'd like you to do is for part 4 is do another 2x box here where you're going to insert to have 4 cells. Insert 4 cells. And so what you're going to do is that run that we're looking at right now with the default of 1, that information is going to go here. Then we're going to go ahead and make a change for 2. And we're going to make a change for 3 and then 4, and based upon those you're going to tell me what had the best effect on false negative rate of your 4 runs, and I'll give you an example. So right now I just did it for 1 for the default, and so and really on this part here, if you could just give me the information I'm looking for is from summary down. That's all you got to copy and paste in your box, because really what we're looking at now are these false negative, false positive rates in the confusion matrix. Remember, false negative rate, false positive rate, and you're going to see how that gets affected. So to change that again, I need to do 4 different runs. Well, I did my first one, so I got 3 left. So what you do is you go back in here, you go back into this little matrix, click in there, and this time put a 2. Now when you put a number in here, you have to hit enter after whatever you put in, or it won't keep. So you hit enter, go ahead and close it out, and we'll do a for example here. So we got 10 on the false negative rate, 19 on the false positive rate. This is reflected up here. You're going to need to know in this class how from these numbers you come up with this. I've got the formulas in there and some other sheets. It's also in your book how that's done. But I went ahead and made that change now for 2, for going from a 1 to a 2, and let's see what happens. Okay, so I got 6 and 21, so look at the difference here. Boom, boom. Those two have changed. False negative, false positive rates have changed in that. So that's what I'm saying. So you'll go through, again, you would take this from summary down and copy it in another box. So again, do it for 4 of them. And then explain to me which one is the best based upon the results that you see for that. And that would be the call sensitive classifier. Okay, so the other part that you saw in here, it's asking you in your, telling you in your assignment, hey, as that cost of the type 2 error decreases, what happens? And if it increases, what happens? And when they're telling me, asking you what happens, what they're referring to is what's it doing to the false negative rate, false positive rate, excuse me. So as a type 2 error, which is a false negative rate, goes up or down, what's that doing to the false positive? And also, what is that doing to your correctly classified up here? Okay? And so that should be all you need for your assignment. Again, back up here in the assignment 2 folder you see in Angel. If you wanted to see an explanation, again, your book has this in great detail. But also in your assignment here, there's a little information page about type 1 and type 2 errors for that. And you can refer to that if you need to. All right, so good luck with it. And this will conclude the tutorial for part 3 and 4 on assignment 2. Thank you.